I think you come to the Bell game to win it. Wabash always fight.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Don Morrell Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. And Coach, we talk this week after a really tough loss on Saturday to Denison, a 45-42 ball game. Little Giants took the lead late in the fourth quarter in the final minute on a great drive engineered by Liam Thompson, but Denison came back and had a 5-play drive to score the game-winning touchdown in the closing seconds of the ball game. How does your team move from that ball game, a tough defeat in a conference game, and now move on to another tough opponent when the Little Giants travel to Springfield, Ohio this weekend to take on Wittenberg University?
It started Sunday. We got back out on the field and practiced. Went again Monday, Tuesday. We're taping today on Wednesday, and we'll be back out there, and you kind of work through it. It's sort of like the grief process, if you will. But I think the kids who are on our football team and the coaches have signed up for everything Wabash football offers. And when we lose a game around here, it's pretty painful. So we're dealing with it.
There were positives out of the game on Saturday, however. Liam played a good game. He was picked off 3 times in the early going of that ball game, but really played a tremendous fourth quarter. Penn Stoller continues to develop as a great receiver, had his first 100-yard game. Gavin Rupert continues to be a star on defense for the Little Giants. He forced a late fumble and recovered that helped set up one of the go-ahead scores for Wabash. So there were a lot of good things to take from that ball game on Saturday.
Clearly there were. We need to really develop the other, 15 names we're not mentioning to get them ready to play at a level where you will win a real quality conference football game. And we're not quite there yet. I'm hoping it's this week.
Last year, played Wittenberg at home. It was a tough ball game, ended up shutting out the Little Giants in the second half, going on to a win here at Little Giant Stadium. This is a Wittenberg team that last year had a very solid running game. This year, they've been a little more focused in the passing game. Colin Brown, their quarterback, has been just surgical in his approach, among the leaders in completion percentage and passing efficiency in Division III this year. And then on defense, they have always been extremely strong and extremely physical up front. What do you see looking in your preparation to play Wittenberg that you'll have to face this week against the Tigers?
Defensively, it is the typical Wittenberg football team. They are strong and physical. They pressure you, and we need to be ready for a really physical football game on offense. I think offensively, they have changed a little bit. The quarterback's a good player, but it's really more about us being doing our job. We're playing Wittenberg, but we're playing ourselves too.
Going to segue into our interview for this week. Can you talk about the play of your offensive line? You've got a mixture of some guys with some good experience. Joe Mullen is going to be our guest that we're going to talk to here in just a moment or so. Who brings some veteran experience, but you also have a lot of younger players that don't have a lot of experience as varsity starters, but have really seemed to gel well through these first 4 games of the season.
Well, and I'll start with Mark Castor has waited his turn to play here, and he's doing an outstanding job. Cameron Ford got his first start last year at OWU. He played in the Witt game, and then he started in the Bell game. And that was a work in progress, but he's settled in at the right guard spot, has done a really, really good job. I think the big surprise for us has been Quinn Scholler, who has come in and started at left tackle. And we seem to get one of those. We had it with Tim Leith, one of those kids once about every 7 years that can do something like that.
Well, we did get a chance to talk to Joe Mullen, the starting center of the Little Giants, an all-region pick last year. By D3Football.com and an all-conference player as well. Joe had a chance to talk about not only the play of the offensive line this year, but his leadership and the leadership of the other players on the offensive line and those who aren't starting or who aren't seeing as much playing time. Let's listen to what Joe had to say. Our guest this week is Joe Mullen. Joe is the starting center for the Little Giants, an all-region player last year as well as all-conference. And Joe, I know the team's disappointed with the final result from Saturday, but there were a lot of positives to take away as well. You were able to really generate a good ground game and also protect Liam. What do you take away from that Denison game as you watch the film over the past couple of days and take from that to prepare for this Saturday's game at Wittenberg?
You know, I think that from an offensive line perspective, we have to play more consistent. You know, we did really well, came out against Worcester and put up a lot of yards and stuff like that. Really played assignment sound football, but we did make a lot of mistakes that didn't really get highlighted on the field on Saturday. But we definitely need to fix that stuff going into Wittenberg, and we definitely need to keep Liam off the ground and stuff like that, and allow them to make the magic happen, right? So.
Well, let's talk about being an offensive lineman. So if you're a wide receiver, you know how many catches you have, you know how many yards you had for receiving, you know how many touchdowns you scored. You know, Liam knows what his numbers are after the game. Donovan, Cade, all of the, you know, Connor Grimes, Xavier Tyler, those guys all know what their numbers are from an offensive running back standpoint. Even the defensive players, you know, Cade Lansdell was our guest last weekend. They know what their overall defensive numbers are. But for an offensive lineman, there are no numbers you can look at in the box score that tell you really how effective you were. So how do you gauge not only your own individual abilities from a game, but your group output from a game?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we always say that if we go unnoticed in a game, it's a perfect game from that perspective. But I think from an individual standpoint, if I go out there and play, you know, assignment sound football, as I've already said, that not only helps the offensive line, but again, that helps the specialty units, Liam, make that magic happen and, you know, put us in a better position to win the game. From a unit standpoint, you know, again, assignment sound football, but also playing together. Offensive line, you have to be selfless. You know, that's what you sign up for. You make that sacrifice for the betterment of the team, and overall, we do pretty well here with that.
What's it like being part of that offensive line unit when you have individuals behind you such as Liam Thompson at quarterback, you know, Donovan, Snyder, Cade Campbell, the whole wealth of running backs, and the talented wide receiving core with Heisman Skeens and Cooper Sullivan, Derek Allen Jr., Jacob Riddle, obviously Penn Stoller, who's having a great season at tight end. What is it like knowing you've got that type of talent behind you? Does that give you a little extra motivation but you know, we know if we get our job done that these guys can do their job? Is it kind of that attitude?
Of course, yeah, and it makes it a hell of a lot easier that you know, they're amazing athletes and, you know, better people off the field. I would say that it also helps that everyone on the offensive side of the ball and even the defensive side of the ball, everyone's, you know, well beyond their years in regards to their maturity and how they attack the field and how they attack their gameplay. Everyone is always working on their craft. It's very rare that we have bad practices, and it's always because everyone is on top of their stuff and they're always working to make sure that all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed.
As the center, you're really the captain of the offensive line. You're checking on either side to make sure everybody knows what their blocking assignment, what their duty on that play is. As a team captain, you've got that role overall as well, to be a leader for the team. How do you approach that role on the offensive line as the starting center and as a team captain overall?
Yeah, so I guess from an offensive line perspective, it's no secret that we have a younger offensive line than we've had in the past several years. But luckily, like I said, they're all mature beyond their years. You know, Quinn Scholler, Mark Castor, Cam Ford, Cannon Kelly, Bryce Adams, guys that haven't necessarily had the most playing time here, But they've walked in that role because we put that emphasis on the position, not just the player. Whoever is the starting right tackle for Wabash football is the starting right tackle and is expected to fill that role. And it also helps that I have fellow seniors on the offensive line that are true leaders, guys that don't really get that recognition, like Nathan Parrots, Mark Castor, guys that show up every single day, don't complain, they do their work, and they get the job done. And honestly, they're more vocal in our group than I am, because I tend to be a more laid-back person. You know, I'm not really a hee-haw and type of guy, but I try to lead by example, and you know, hopefully at the end of the day, if I can teach one of the younger guys something or help them out in any way that I can, I've done my job, because that's what, you know, guys like Jake Slager, Connor Phelps, Tom Bolin, Dane Smith, that's what guys that played before me, that's what they did for me, and so it's my duty to pass that on to them.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your major? What are your plans after college right now?
So I'm an English major, theater minor. My plan right now is to return for next fall for my year of COVID eligibility. And then after that, I'm considering joining the United States Navy or the Coast Guard. But I've also had a couple internships that have been working out really well. So I have a lot of options, but that'll come in time. Yeah. So.
Joe, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Brent.
That's Joe Mullen, the starting center for the Wabash College football team. And back with Coach Morrell after we heard from Joe Mullen. Coming off of Joe talking about the performance of the offensive line and you talking about the O-line, how has this Wabash team continued to generate the offensive numbers? Regardless of who the opponent has been, Wabash has just had no problem putting up good offensive numbers this season.
It's, you know, obviously it starts with Liam, and he's been around here for 3 years, and Cooper Sullivan and Heisman and Derek and Donovan. We have an interesting deal. We're on offense. We've got a bunch of guys who've been here a long time. Penn has he's waited for 3 years to get on the field. Jackson Smith played in front of him last year. So it's that depth and being together and spring ball, 5:30 workouts. They've been around each other a lot.
Coach, what does this Little Giant team have to do on Saturday to beat Wittenberg and be able to then get to that off week and get a chance to catch its breath?
We can't beat ourselves. And that isn't just, you know, we started really slow on offense last Saturday. In all three phases, you know, it's easy to point at the defense, but we need to be really good in all three phases and manage the contest.
Little Giants head to Springfield, Ohio for a 1 p.m. kickoff at Wittenberg University. It is Wittenberg's homecoming. Be a good time to go 2-0 against homecoming opponents this year. With the Wittenberg homecoming, all tickets are free. There's no charge for admission, so we invite as many Wabash fans that can make the trip to Springfield, Ohio on I-70 to come on over and support the Little Giants in person. If you can't do that, there are video links on the Wabash website at sports.wabash.edu that you can check out. I'll be there providing audio commentary as well, and that'll be on its usual location at sports.wabash.edu/WCVN for the Wabash College Video Network. Want to remind you, after the Wittenberg game, Wabash has a bye week, and so because of the bye week, we will not have a Don Morrell show for you next week. We'll take a break as well and come back in 2 weeks to talk shortly about the Wittenberg result and get everything ready to roll for the Ohio Wesleyan game on October 15th. But until then, Coach, thank you so much for your time today, and best of luck this weekend against Wittenberg.
Thank you.
You've been watching the Don Morrell Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
I think you come to the Belgium to win it. Wabash always fight.